Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity based here in England and we help people living with terminal illnesses or dealing with bereavement to write and record their own original songs. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can check out our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters. Each episode I have a different guest on. I ask them to share with me one of their songs. We have a conversation about how they wrote it. I ask them to share with me a songwriting tip. And I also ask for them to share a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. This episode features AHI, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today I'm here with AHI. Thanks for joining me, AHI.
Thank you, man. Good to be here, bro.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I've become a very big fan of you over the last couple of months. I'm really looking forward to talking to you more. For anyone who's new to these podcasts, this is the Swan Song Project Podcast. Each week I have a different songwriter on, and I ask them to share with us one of their songs. We have a chat about how they wrote it. I ask them to share with us a songwriting tip, and I also ask them for a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. So I'll hand it over to you now, AHI, and ask you to introduce your song for us, please.
So this is my song. It's called "Oh Sweet Day." I've got a lot to learn, you've got a lot to give. We can go anywhere, we build this broken bridge. You've got a heart of gold, I've got a mind that goes on and on and on to places we'll never know. But I just wanna be with you when the day is done, when the darkness comes, when the old sweet day is done. I just wanna be with you in the setting sun, till the morning comes, when the day is done. When the old sweet day is done. If you got it figured out, and I'm going round and round, but darling, I lift you up, cause I know you won't let me down. I want you to meet me there, by the well we used to drink. I will draw the water if you quench these thirsty lips. Cause I just wanna be with you when the day is done, when the darkness comes, when the old sweet day is done. I just wanna be with you in the setting sun, till the morning comes, when the day is done. When the old sweet day. I walked a million miles, you made the perfect home. You and me will be alright, as long as we're not alone. Cause I just wanna be with you when the day is done, when the darkness comes, when the old sweet day is done. I just wanna be with you in the setting sun, till the morning comes, when the day is done. When the day is done, when the day is done. When the old sweet day is done.
Okay, brilliant. So that was Old Sweet Day by AHI. I was just telling AHI off air, this song is a very special song to me. It's for reasons what I'm not ready to say on a recording program yet, but it's I think it's just an amazing song. I absolutely love it. What can you tell us about writing it?
Right, so "Oh Sweet Day" is the first song, at that time at least, the only song that I wrote in Nashville, Tennessee. And I've been going back in Nashville for a while, recorded all my records in Nashville. And I remember I had a show that day. There was like it was like Nashville has like a lot of hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff like that. So I think there's like a hurricane watch, right? And I was writing the song "All Sweet Day," and it just came to me, and it just became my biggest song to date, man. It was like it just blew up, and everybody just responded to it. So it's a beautiful song about being away from home, being away from family, and the people that you need in your life. You know what I mean? So I just want to be with you. You know what I mean? That's the essence of the song, and something that so many people can relate to, right?
Yeah, definitely. You're based in Canada, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. We're in
So yeah,
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah, so a long way away. Yeah, it's it's one of those. It feels like it captures lots of very real. Like it's what my favorite love songs are always ones where there's the love elements so strong in it, but it's not off sunshine and rainbows. You know, it kind of has that kind of the dark element as well of the
Right, right, right.
you know, and that's what then makes the beautiful element of it so much stronger. What I think you just capture so but beautifully in some of the lyrics in it.
Right, and I never say the word love in it, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean. So I try not to write love songs. I try to
Mm,
write relationship building songs, right? Very technical way of saying. No, like to me, relationships are very important. I keep my relationships very tight and close. The people that are in my life, and that's like the biggest thing to me. It's just about finding those honest moments in relationship. You know what I mean? And those vulnerable moments. Like this song is very vulnerable. If you listen to the lyrics, like you can from the point of view of the singer, which is myself, you get this sense of like this not just longing but like desperation and not you know what I mean, desperation for this thing to work, for this thing to be everything it feels like it means to them. You know what I mean? I need you. Like it's what it comes down to, right? I need you. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and like I say, capturing those real things like the another thing what I liked about it is that it's yeah, I just want to be with you when the day is done. You know, like 'cause that's such a real thing of relationship. That you know, you might both have different things going on,
right,
and and so you wrote it when you were away from home was the,
right, right, right,
but that's the time, isn't it? Like whatever people have got going on when the day is done, that's the
right.
person you want to come back to.
Being on tour, same thing. You know what I mean? Like being on a tour bus, and your family is not often on the tour bus with you or on tour with you. You know what I mean? So that was also the first time like I went to Nashville when I wrote that song, and I guess it was like the longest duration I was away from my family since having a family, like you know my wife and children.
Mm.
So I was like, I guess it came out of just like being in this Airbnb alone, having to make my dinners, eating at the time at least eating what's the pizza, Caesar's Little Caesar's pizza, right? 'Cause it's just right across the street. Worst pizza ever. No, it was it wasn't the worst pizza ever. Very greasy though. I don't eat pizza anymore. But it was, you know, just being having to take care of myself in this space, and your family's at home, and you're just like every day you got to create your own routine, and I'm, you know, so it definitely came out of that, you know, just like the day's done, and I'm going to my bed alone. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Were you touring a lot like before you had your family as well?
Uh, I was traveling a lot. So before I met my wife, I was traveling a lot across the world. I, you know, did some backpacking and stuff. But like we lived in the UK for about a year, a half a year, sorry.
Okay.
So we were traveling, touring. I wouldn't call those tours because they were like more so like
Mm.
just you know grinding it out, trying to make it. You know what I mean? Playing the circuits and going to the open mics and going to the festival slots and you know the showcases and whatnot. So we were hustling like a lot, like shows constantly out there, non-paying most of them. You know what I mean? And me, my wife, and my daughter. Right at the time, now I have four children, but at the time just us three. So you know, the music thing and the performance part of it was always happening. But I think when I went to Nashville, that was the first time I said, okay, I got to go on my own and do some. I was doing like songwriting camps and workshops and stuff like that, and to become a better songwriter. I think at the time it was Tin Pan South. I think it's Tin Pan South was happening on as a conference, and they had like Nashville Songwriters Association International had a whole conference going on, and that I went to. I was a member at the time, so yeah, that was where I was at that time. But before that, yeah, we were traveling like crazy, like especially during our UK Europe stint, right?
Yeah, so that would have been a big shock then if you were kind of used to traveling with your wife to then
Right,
be
right,
away by yourself.
right, right.
Whereabouts? Whereabouts in England were you?
We stayed in the legendary Catford. I don't know if you know Catford.
Catford? Not well,
Right?
no.
No, it's I think it's in the south. I forget the overground train we took to get to the city, but we took the overground train to the city. It wasn't far though, and we also stayed in Lewisham for a period of time.
Oh yeah, that's friends in
First
Lewisham.
place we stayed, I think I'm certified now. I've stayed in the ghettos of Walthamstow.
Oh, Walthamstow, yeah, I've got a good friend who lives in Walthamstow.
I didn't. It was good. We didn't stay there long though. We had an Airbnb there, and we decided that we should not be in this Airbnb anymore. It was a lovely house, but there was mice in the house, so we had to get out of there. But the house was lovely, but we didn't know that it was a pretty dangerous area. If I'm correct, Walthamstow is dangerous. They say.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think actually, I think it used to be. I think it's got a lot better now, from what I know of it.
2011, 12.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it could change, right? And it felt like there was change happening when we were there, but it was a great touchdown. So the first time we came was me, my wife, my daughter, and my mom came on the first trip. So we made two trips, right? First one we stayed for about a month, went back home, and then came back. And the first time we came, we got detained for about 2 hours, right? Because me being an idiot and being all like green eyed, I was like, I told the border patrol people, I don't know what you call them, but border patrol people that I want to move to England, right? And they were like, you can't just move to England in a post 9/11 world. He was so like indignant about it too. I was like, why can't I? As long as I can take care of myself. And they detained us because of my naivete, and from there, they let us go. So we got in and we came back. And part of the reason is my wife is a UK citizen, so she has her passport. And once they found that out, and they confirmed that by way of her mother and her grandmother and all kinds of stuff, she's a UK citizen. They were like, "Oh, we can't touch you anymore." So we had immunity. So we got in. Right.
Got there in the end.
Right.
Yeah. So back to the song. What was it like? Like, how quickly did it come to you? And how did it start? Did it start with that kind of chorus line, or did you start with the tune? Or
Boom, doom, boom, doom, boom, doom. The guitar part, right? Because I'm a simple guitar. I always play simple guitar parts. And I think it just was like, I got a lot to learn. You got a lot to give. We can go anywhere, rebuild. I think that was how it literally started. And the lyrics for the verses came to me really fast, right? And then I think the chorus was just, to be honest, I was rehearsing for that show I was telling you about in at Grimey's in Nashville, and I was rehearsing a different song, and I hit the wrong chord, and I went boom, ding, and I was like, ooh, that sounds like a new song, and I just stopped rehearsing and then started writing the song. So it was really fast, but once I had the meat and bones of the song, they say meat and potatoes, I guess, of the song. It took time over. I let it sit for a little bit, and I didn't like. I liked it when I came back, and my wife's gonna be mad at me for saying this, and I played it for her, and she wasn't certain that it was my single, right? She's like, it's a good song, and then I made a change where the second half of the song where the tempo change. I put the tempo change on there, and then I wrote another verse, and then it was like, oh, this is a song, right? This is it. This is it. Right, so it just came together over some time, and then we realized, I don't even think when I started promoting my record for We Made It Through the Wreckage, I was promoting that song as the single. I thought the single was Drought, right? Another song on the record. But the world chose that song. Like Spotify chose that song, and Spotify said, this is your single. You know what I mean? Which is kind of cool with songwriting now. Like, there's a way for you to like test your music out before it's even out. Send it to your audience, and they'll tell you what your single is, right? So that was an interesting thing how that came to be. But I fleshed it out over time, and then even the first time I recorded it, I made a couple changes in lyrics there and added another verse to the end of it. So it wasn't that last verse. I've walked a million miles. That wasn't in the original song. That wasn't in the original way I thought I was going to record it. And then I just wrote that in the studio when I was recording it the first time. So I recorded it twice. The first version will never see the light of day. But that change was, when the change, I think I was just going to roll out with the chorus. No, I was going to repeat the verse again, I think. if I'm correct, and then and roll out with the chorus. But then I wrote a whole new verse for it, which I think is perfect for the song as well, right?
Yeah, definitely it works really well. Yeah, something I was going to ask you about. I think the structure's brilliant. I love the when that shift comes in and it just really kind of lifts it, doesn't it? It's kind of
This makes it, yeah, it's not a heavy song at all, but it's just kind
mm,
of like it just kind of like opens it up and just you feel light, you feel like you've arrived with that person. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I kind of grew up on a lot of Irish music, and it kind of
Okay.
reminds me of some of that stuff where like the kind of would be a beautiful ballad, but then they'll kind of kick into a bit more of like a jig or a reel type bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you get
yeah.
your foot stomping a bit more.
Right, right.
There's that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a stunning song, and yeah, it's great. You're saying it's great that you can let your audience kind of a single can naturally because it can be hard yourself, isn't it? Knowing what song is people are gonna respond to.
I mean, yeah. Over my career, I've pretty much done my own A&R, with help here and there. But you know, you love all your songs. You think all your songs are amazing, so you think like when I wrote Drought. We won't talk about that. It's a different song, but I felt this electricity when I wrote it, and that's because of what it was doing for me as a songwriter, right? Like Drought was a song where I felt like I started to tell stories in a different way. So for me,
Mm,
it was an accomplishment. You know what I mean? My audience still loves it, but it's like the difference between Old Sweet Day is it came to me so naturally,
mm,
and it was a very honest. Like every line in that song is honest. Like it's not there's nothing I'm pulling. Like Drought is a story that I created. You know what I mean?
mm,
I didn't go to Cincinnati. I didn't go to on my way to San Jose. I haven't been to San Jose. You know what I mean? I probably drove through it, but every line in Old Sweet Day is honest, and it's very simple message. You know what I mean? Like I just like you said, everybody, whether you're at work, whether you're on tour, whether you're on like a vacation, whether you're like whatever you're doing, I just want to be with you when the day is done, when the Old Sweet Day is done, right? It's a timeless message, right? And the audience elected that message. I can't complain. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It was my favorite song when I wrote it. It's just like you just go through the A&R process of like trying to think of what's going to work in the market. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's all garbage. It's all BS. You know what I mean? What
yeah,
feels good is what matters most sometimes. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, definitely. How is so you mentioned two different types of writing there, actually writing Drought and being that kind of telling that story and creating that story, and All Sweet Day being like one that just came out kind of naturally. Are they are they kind of common ways that you write, or do you have other ways that you write? Or like how
Yeah, I mean,
what's
like
your
I
general
usually,
process like?
grab my guitar. It's always at that time at least was everything was written on my guitar,
Mm,
and I think like the difference between like All Sweet Day was like it was a different kind of sorry, was a different kind of like nitpicking. Like you know what I mean? It was more of just like trying to boost this feeling of the song and elevate that part of it. You know what I mean? But Drought was more like pouring over every lyric. And that was like the first time I really did that like that, where I just poured over every lyric and make sure every line felt like a story. And I even kind of wrote backstory to it. And people don't know this and they'll never know, but like Drought was like, it's the idea, the idea of Drought was like, I might ruin this song for people if it's their favorite song. But like it's this guy who works in Silicon Valley, you know what I mean? And like he's missing someone who lives on the other side of the world, a different country, right? So that's the idea behind it. Like I'm on my way to San Jose because he's gonna get a job in Silicon Valley. You know what I mean? And the person that they're leaving behind is their water, their life force. You know what I mean? So do you go for the big money in Silicon Valley, or do you stay behind for love? And this person had to choose. You know what I mean? And
mm,
realizing on the road trip that as they go to the ocean, they're leaving their real water behind because you can't drink ocean water, really. You know what I mean? So anyhow, that's the lame like technical storyboard behind that song, and then you got to condense it into like something that is relatable. Like I can't sing a song about a guy going to Silicon Valley. I can't say that. You know what I mean? So, right? But Old Sweet Day, that one it wasn't more about the lyrics because I had the lyrics. I don't think I changed too many lyrics other than adding that extra verse. You know what I mean? I don't have the lyrics. If I had like, if I was on my other computer, I could pull up like all the different because I have versions of lyrics, right?
mm.
But it's on my other computer. But yeah, that was just natural, organic. It was just kind of like, okay, getting that structure down and deciding the tempo of the change that I wanted to do, you know. And it's funny, like it feels like it gets faster, right? But it's actually going slower, right? Like the first one's like ding 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 ding, and then it goes, and then it goes and you're just going on. It's a slower beat, right? It's almost like half time, but it's not. Like,
Mm.
but I didn't know that when I wrote it. I thought I'm playing my guitar faster, so I'm like it's faster. It's gotta be faster. And then when we mapped out the drums and stuff, it's like oh, it's a slower time. Right? I'm not the greatest musician in the world. So at the time, I had no clue. It was like I'm strumming faster. Like, but it's so yeah, it worked out really well. And it's like, I usually just start with like depending on like, I like to sit in my room with my guitar and just play something and sing something. But it's always great when songs like just come to you out of the blue. You know what I mean? Because like it's not guaranteed, but sometimes those can be the most organic songs. You know what I mean? Now I try different methods. I'll dream songs sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I'll hear melodies in my dream and wake up. I have like thousands of videos of me just like in the bathroom just mumbling, so I don't wake up the children and the family after wake. You know what I mean? So like, or just sometimes you can be very intentional about the song. You know what I mean? Like on this, I have a new record coming out hopefully this year, and like you have an idea like I want to write a song like this, or now I'm more intentional about I want my voice to do this. You know what I mean? I want to sound like this on this song. Whereas my first record, I'll say it was more like I won't say spontaneous, but it's more feeling based. You know what I mean? And when you get that methodical part working to enhance the feeling part, I think you create something special. You know what I mean? I think real songwriters they understand the methodical part, but they don't let the methodical part get away in the way of the feeling because it's all about music is all about feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you don't feel anything, I don't care how smart the song is. Personally, you got to feel something, right?
Yeah, I remember hearing someone describe that as the two elements of it being inspiration and craftsmanship.
Right.
Obviously, your chord structures or your melodic things that might work and the ways of putting the rhyme together, but you need the inspiration to feed into that, and then you need to get that balance right to get something
Right.
good.
I would say like if you're gonna have a career in music, you gotta have a certain level of craftsmanship. But in this like nowadays, and I don't maybe not even nowadays, but I think more now than ever, you don't even have to have craftsmanship.
Mm.
There's so many artists that will have millions of streams and views on YouTube of songs that just were jokes. You know what I mean? The and they inevitably become one hit wonders, right? Or just one song wonders, and then they try to replicate what they did in the past, right? But the craftsmanship comes in when the craftsmanship comes is like I can replicate that because I know how to take the inspiration and use those tools, right? So I think, a lot of people want to get into the music industry and they just have these inspiration, they get lucky. You know what I mean? I'm not disrespecting anybody, but you'll see a lot of artists nowadays who will come, you have the big song, and then their careers are over. You know what I mean? Unless the song is so huge, right? I don't want to disrespect anybody, but like a great example of that is Old Town Road, right? We'll see what his career does. I'm not going to say anything negative about his career, but it's hard to replicate an Old Town Road because it feels like a joke, right? And it's hard to make that joke again. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So he has a lot of money behind him, so he'll always have great writers coming to him and trying to pitch him songs. So he might sustain his career, but I don't know if he has craftsmanship. I don't know. So I'm not hating on his craftsmanship. It's just more so like a lot of artists will like his melody is melody. If it's catchy, it's catchy. Like my children can sing a catchy melody and write a catchy song if they, you know what I mean. If they're lucky, if they
Yeah.
just go on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, whatever, Reels, and just sing some catchy melody, it can go viral, and that's a hit song, right? And that's fair because music is supposed to do that. It's for the people, right? But craftsmanship is where I can replicate that experience. You know what I mean? And then you have people like Taylor Swift, you have people like Ed Sheeran, you have people like Michael Kiwanuka who can replicate those emotions
Mm.
over and over again because they understand the craft of what they're doing, right?
Yeah, and that kind of the kind of stuff you were saying of like directing what you want to do.
Right.
So like, I want to write a song now that's going to do this, so I'm going to try and write a song in this kind of style. That's where then you kind of learn those tools, don't you? And this is how you
Right.
do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff, man. What's something else I was just going to ask you about your songwriting style? Do you have any kind of like, not rules as such, but like principles, I guess? One of the things that I really like with your stuff is that and Old Sweet Day is a good example of it, where the songs have got really positive messages, but not in a cheesy way. Again, it's that thing where it's positive and uplifting, but it also feels real and it feels relatable.
Right.
Um,
I do. I have more rules than I should have, probably. In the sense that, like, if I don't feel like I can be in the driver's seat of a song, I probably won't sing it. So you're not gonna hear me sing a song about breaking up because I'm in a happy relationship. So that's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? So if it does ever happen, God forbid, uh, then I'll write that song, maybe. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna write that song now. Or I'm not gonna write a song about like driving Bentleys and expensive cars because even if I had the money to buy those stuff, it's not my mentality, right? So that's one thing I don't do. It has to be honest for me. It has to feel like I've been through this. I write music for myself first, and I write music that I feel is going to inspire me first and foremost. And I feel like if it inspires me first and foremost, then it will inspire others. You know what I mean? So if I don't feel honest about it, I won't do it. I don't use the word love in any of my songs, right?
was that kind of something, the decision you made a
Yeah,
while
it's
ago that you're not going to do it?
very intentional. uh, Even to the point, like I was in the studio recently, and I probably could say this. I was in the studio recently in August working on a song with this artist named Lauren Daigle, and the producer said, "Hey, do you want to do a version with you singing this verse, this line?" Like, I don't think I can sing the word love, right? It's this mandate. I think I'm not going to sing love ever in my career, and it was a funny joke in the studio where he's like, "Do you want me to just change the whole song for you then?" But it's the reason why there's a long convoluted reason which I won't really go into because it's too long. Um, but essentially, I think it's been done before. You know what I mean? So it's a very universal feeling. But I like the challenge of finding ways to express that feeling without saying that word. I think it's more authentic when you can know that it's a love song because I can write a love song about anything, really. I can write a love song about my car. I can write a love song about my favorite basketball team. I can write a love song about anything, right? But when you can convey that emotion, because you only have to say "I love you," for affirmation of the feeling you already have. You know what I mean? We don't say "I love you" because it makes us love each other more. You know what I mean? We say it because it gives us affirmation about something, right? So I'm trying to find those affirming moments that make you feel that way as opposed to just saying it. You know what I mean? And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with artists who say it because some of us need that affirmation. You know what I mean? Some of us need to hear that. But for me, it's like when I say I just want to be with you when the old sweet day is done, to me that's bigger than love. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's so important. It's so beyond love that I don't. People say, well, there's nothing bigger than love. Love is the biggest thing, but like it's almost like a life force in a way. So it's like I need this more than I need love. So I don't know. That's a long answer, but I try to stay away from that word as much as I can. If I'm doing a cover song and it's in there, then I'll probably say it. I try to avoid that even, to be honest. Um, what else rules did I have? As I grow, I'm learning more like how to, like I say, use my voice and write songs that my voice sits in. So I don't like to sing songs that are too poppy, I guess. I try not to write like it's funny. Like if I wrote a pop song, it's not gonna sound like a pop song because of
Yeah.
my voice and my stylings. So I like to have songs that have commercial appeal, but I don't ever anymore. When I first started writing, I would write anything, but now I don't go for chart topping songs or you know what I mean. Like if I played you some of my old songs that would never see the light of day, it's me trying to chase top 40 radio. There's some of them like that. You know what I mean? And I went through a period of time where I was just like, I'm gonna write anything possible. Doesn't care what genre it is, whatever I just feel comes out, I'm gonna write it. But now I'm more intentional about how my songs are written, where I want to see the song end up when it's produced. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I'm more intentional is a it's not a rule, I guess, but it's something I go into a song with. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And then if something just comes to me when I'm sleeping or when I'm dreaming, sometimes I have lyrics that come to me that are just nonsense lyrics. Some of them are like, like I can't think of any at the top of my head. Some of them are so dumb that like I would like I could sing this and it might not be a stupid song, but it's not me. Like I'm not gonna sing a song about like I don't know. I don't know why Bentleys are in my head right now, but like driving in my Bentley. If the melody's cool, I'll just change the lyrics up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that can be challenging sometimes because maybe the song came to you, and that those words fit perfectly, but they don't make sense to me as an artist. So I got to change those up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Bentleys. I don't. I must have saw something this morning with Bentleys in it. I don't
Subliminal advertising.
know. Yeah, exactly.
So is that like then? I guess when you're on stage, it's having that honesty and that authenticity of what you're saying. So like if you wrote a song where like one of the verses was just like nonsense words that didn't really or like didn't have that meaning to you, but was was a nice melody or whatever. Is that like would you just wouldn't feel right singing something like that? Because sometimes you get songs like that where
Yeah.
where you're like it might mean something really meaningful to the artist, but I've no idea what they're talking about. So some songs you get away with a bit of gibberish, don't you? But I guess would you not feel right knowing it yourself if it didn't have that meaning to you?
You know, yeah, like for me, the reason why I got into music is that like I want to uplift people. Like, if you look over there, Bob Marley, that's Bob Marley. You know what I mean? That's the reason why I sing, like hands down, because when I was like really buying a lot of CDs and stuff like that, when I got into my like formative years of like music discovery, I guess, you know what I mean? Like you become your own person and like, I'm going to get this. I had like everything, like Led Zeppelin, The Doors, every Jimi Hendrix CD, a bunch of hip hop CDs, like everything, right? And then one day I just gave away all my CDs. I sold them. I don't remember if I gave them or I sold them. And the only thing I kept was Bob Marley. Because that was the only thing that made me feel like it was honest and it was uplifting me and it was carrying me through those times I was in.
Mm.
So I made it. And what I love about Bob Marley is how simple it is. You know what I mean? His lyrics are not profoundly deep. I mean, they are deep because of the execution of them, and they're deep because you know he means it, right? But they're not deep because of the poetry of it, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of a rule to me, yeah. So in back to the rules is like I want my music to be as simple as it can be, without sounding cheesy, right? And I don't like gibberish lyrics. Like and probably one of the reasons why I gave away like a record that stands out to me. I think it's called The Prayer, or The American Prayer. I think it's called, by Jim Morrison. It's a record of poetry, and I really got into like without having to do drugs or like got into a lot of that psychedelic lyrics. And there's a point where it's like, what are these guys even talking about?
Yeah.
Like it's cool, but what are they saying? It doesn't mean anything to me. That's why I got rid of them, because like none of this stuff means anything to me. It's cool, it's poetic, it's artsy, it allows you to go into different realms of understanding, but I'm not understanding anything here. So for me, it's important to make sure that what I'm saying gets from point A, which is point me, to point B, which is you, right? The artist, or the audience, sorry. So if I put all this stuff in the middle, like an artist that I like to listen to is Bon Iver, right? And I don't understand anything that he's talking about, right? But I also understand that Bon Iver, there's a soundscape there, and there's artistic like creation there, where like he's it's not just about what he's saying, it's about the way he's using those sounds, the way he's using harmonies and stuff like that. So I can listen to that and appreciate that for what it is, right? But I'm not looking to Bon Iver to save my life or to get me through a difficult day. I listen to that in the background when I'm driving because I just love how it feels. But I want to save people's lives. You know what I mean? As self-righteous as that may sound, I want to uplift people. I want to give people those moments where, they feel like, hey, I have a song I want to share to you because I feel this with you. You know what I mean? So that's important to me, and those come in the most simplest ways. So I don't try to get in the way. You know what I mean? And the songs that I think are the most complex, for me, they're not that complex at all, right?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I think I feel like with certain bits. I think when I was first like learning more about music, I had phases where I'd be like, well, I'm going to learn some really technical guitar parts now. I'm going to start studying. This is really intelligent music. I'm going to listen to this. And again, like it's, and I get why these certain people who like, that's what they love. They love, trying to move it forward in a intelligent way. But I'm the same as you with music. For me, it was always about the connection with people and with the artist and whatever that person was expressing. And I really like what you said about making them as simple as they can be. And that's a really good way of putting it.
Right.
And it's trying to boil down whatever and again, it's something else I remember hearing, some kind of teacher or intellectual talking about, like their job or scientist or something like that, when there's something really complicated,
right.
A big part that if they can't explain it to someone who doesn't know as much as they do about it, then it's kind of almost useless in a way, isn't it? If the information isn't you can't communicate in a proper way.
That's what most wars are built off of. The inability to communicate things in simple ways. That's why we war on Twitter, we war in the real world. Because we can't express ourselves in very simple ways. And things get complicated, people get in the way. So, yeah, the goal is to end war. And the end wars is to say things in the simplest way possible. Right? That's my goal. I want to end wars in the world by writing simple songs.
It's a good goal. It's a good goal. I like it. Brilliant. Let's move into section 2 now, shall we? We've just had lots of great songwriting talk, but this is why I always ask my guests for a songwriting tip. So what would your tip be for us,
I would say just write as much as possible. You know what I mean? Write as honestly as possible. Find your voice. But when I started, I just wrote everything. Like I didn't pigeonhole myself to a genre, and then certain songs stood out more than other songs that felt like, ooh, this is a path I can go down. But just write as much as you can. If you could write every day, do that. If you could write once a week only, do that. But just write as much as you can. And I did a challenge for myself. I wrote one song a week. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but complete a full song a week and say I'm happy with this song. You know what I mean? Because at the time I wasn't writing every day. I was just noodling, doing things. But just try to write one song a week. It sounds like not a lot, but for most people it's a lot. If you can write a good song a week that you're happy with, boom. Go the next week, write one that you're happy with. Not just anything, right? And it doesn't matter what genre it is, doesn't matter what style it is, because if you're just starting out or if you're just trying to find your voice, write everything, and you might be surprised where it takes you and what sounds better. But that's the biggest thing I did at the beginning. Just write everything you can and be as honest with yourself about what you're creating, and what you're doing as possible, so that you can continue to grow. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. I really like that. It's not pigeonhole yourself. Was that something did you have any difficulty with that at the start, or did it come naturally to you? I know that's something what I feel a lot of people, and I certainly did when I started. I was like, I'm going to be me, but I also want to be ZZ Top.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of, as you grow, then trying to get that self-awareness of like, actually, am I writing this because this is what I feel, or is this because I want it to sound a bit like this other band that I like?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've been there. Like, so the new record that I'm going to be coming out with is I think it's the first time I really found myself in a complete way. You know what I mean? Like my first record, like Old Sweet Day, I love acoustic music. I love folk music. I love like just simple music. So that one just popped up, and it was like just like if I I remember the producer saying when we finished recording it, I did that whole vocal in one take. He played it, he said that's one take because it was a natural song. But there might be some other songs on that record where I'm like, that's not really who I am. You know what I mean? My second record, there's certain songs that pop to me and stand out like, ooh, that's close to who I am. And you kind of like, I think every record was a process into self-discovery with mistakes made along the way, different types of mistakes. So this new record, I feel like I've arrived as someone who understands themselves, because I was saying earlier, like I had to self A&R, you know what I mean? And it sounds easy, but there's so many elements to the industry. So you got to write a song that sounds good. You got to write a song that fits in your register, your voice. You got to write a song that's somehow commercially appealing. You know what I mean? If you're going for a wider audience, and even your most popular folk artist or popular niche artist is writing commercial stuff. If they have more than 100 fans, it's probably commercial, right? So you got to write stuff that appeals to people, but then you got to find who you are. And then, I went through Kings of Leon phase of trying to, do I fit in this register? Mumford and Sons phase, had some songs. Went through, who else was there? Like, um, I never went through a soul phase. Like I didn't really write soul songs. Jason Isbell's Jason Isbell's the artist that I write. I
Genius.
studied like all his songs and really broke down his lyric writing, and that was important to me to learn how to write lyrics better. Yeah, you go through these phases of trying to figure out who you sound like. Aloe Black phase. You know what I mean? Try to write a Wake Me Up song. Yeah, I have so many songs that are just like copycats of other songs, but different. You know what I mean? Ben Howard phase. Who else inspired me? Vance Joy. The Luminaires. Oh my gosh, Luminaires. Like yeah, my wife's over there saying names to me. Luminaires. So finding a space where like I became a folk artist, Americana artist, because that's the community that embraced me and allowed me to be who I am. You know what I mean? First and foremost. Whereas other communities didn't embrace me as I was. You know what I mean? As I was trying to find myself. But the
Mm.
folk music said, "This just be yourself, do who you are." And they didn't say that verbally, but like by just letting me do it. And then I think I went headstrong into the folk Americana scene and left things behind that I should have brought with me. You know what I mean? Because my first album is very different than my second album in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on in the first album, but there's certain songs in there where it's like, okay, my second album was like trying to steep myself in the singer-songwriter Americana space, and this third album is like, it's kind of like taking the best of everything I did on those ones and kind of almost going back to the beginning of that first record. And like, there's a bit of Old Sweet Day on there. There's a bit of, I don't know if you know the songs on that first record, but like
Yeah.
Escape is, a bit of Escape on there. You know what I mean? Like Escape is a great song, I think personally, that I could have probably performed better or that didn't live up to what I thought the expectations were for it. But you have another go at it, and this record has some songs that are like kind of feel like that in the ballady kind of sense. So yeah, self discovery is extremely hard, and it is the downfall of probably most musicians' careers. You know what I mean? Because you don't have every all the time in the world to convince your audience of who you are. Some
Mm.
people get it sooner. Some people fake it and they become a character, and that's what gets big. And then they have identity issues later. You know what I mean? Some people have help at growing that character and building that character into something. Some people are just doing it because it's fun, and this is who they are. They're having fun, and then that becomes something that grows with them. You know what I mean? Or they're having fun, and that becomes something they become embarrassed about later in their life. You know what I mean? It is natural for some people. It is manufactured for some people, but a lot of people have failed careers. I hate to say it because of not being able to identify who they were. The most important thing for me was finding my voice, and I did that before any of my records. You know what I mean? And as I went along, I kept trying to find my voice. When I say voice, I mean my storytelling and my actual literal voice.
Mm.
Right? Finding my voice. And that has always been my anchor, which is why this next record is like the best thing I've ever created. Because I found that the voice being my anchor became the centerpiece of this record. You know what I mean? Which is why a song like Old Sweet Day is such a big song, because the voice was the centerpiece of that song. And the storytelling was the centerpiece of that song. There's a lot going on in terms of guitars and stuff, but none of it really gets in the way of the voice and the storytelling. So this new record is like I've I don't want to say I've mastered that because I don't know if I have, you know what I mean? But I found that, and I'm very comfortable in that point. The voice and the storytelling are the centerpiece, and everything else is there just to complement that. So that's it's hard because that's life. Like we're all trying to figure out who we are in life. You know what I mean? So to ask an artist to figure that out in a
Yeah.
certain amount of years just to have a career, that's hard. You know what I mean? Like then we should all be like entering Nirvana or something. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy, right? So
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Because it is like in normal life, that's a long term project, and then to be doing that in normal life whilst expressing it and doing it through an art form is
it's hard.
yeah, a hard balance to act. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing the new album when it comes out. I just wanted to ask you quickly before we move on. You talking about finding your voice, so like, yeah, obviously you've got a very distinctive and powerful voice. Is there anything you can say about that process of finding your voice was like, and how you went about doing that?
Sure, yeah. So I'm not, starting out, I wasn't really a singer at all. I wasn't a good singer. Um, Grew up, probably was going to get into education and stuff like that. But there's a point when I used to be a rapper, and I started a band. I'll try to do this fast. I started a band, and I was doing like rapping, poetry, and some singing. You know what I mean? But my voice was like horrible. My guitar player at the time, a friend of mine named Chris, he was like, "Man, you have a cool voice, but you got to listen to the music around you and use your voice like an instrument. All our instruments got to be in tune and got to be connected with everything. So you got to do the same thing." And that's the first time anybody ever said that to me. You know what I mean? So from that, I started thinking differently. Like it was just like, okay. It's like if you don't know better, you're not going to do better. Millions of people go on The Voice, or not The Voice, but more so Got Talent. What's the one called? No,
It's Britain's
America's
Got
Got
Talent.
Talent, Britain's Got
America's Got
Talent.
Talent.
Yeah, Canada's Got whatever it is. Without knowing that, you know what I mean? And they just go and sing, and they get so shocked when someone says you suck, right? Because you're not listening to yourself. So that was the first time as a singer he said, "Listen to yourself," right? So that changed everything for me, right? Instantly, right? And I would say like there were three different parts. So that was like the catalyst. There was one day, I was dealing with some girlfriend woes, and I remember sitting in my basement in the dark. It was the sunset was coming down. The room was getting dark, and I was just literally going, A-I-O-U. It's so emo. It's so weird and emo. But I was doing that, and I was listening to my voice and trying to hear like where my voice feels good, where it didn't feel good, and just trying to find out how the vocal cord was moving, right? Technical stuff, but I didn't know I was doing technical stuff. I was just being a weirdo at the time, right? And fast forward to when I started recording, before I recorded my first record, I went and did a song, a version of Old Sweet Day that didn't go too well, and I had a very interesting experience in the studio. And I said to my wife when I came back home, I never want to feel that way, the way I felt in the studio. So I'm going to figure out how to get this voice thing going on so no one ever makes me feel that way again, because I knew I was right and someone made me feel wrong, but I wasn't confident about how right I was, so I was allowed to be brought down, right? If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So every day when I came back home, there's a bass player named Victor Wooten, who I don't know why I watched his videos, but he's an amazing bass player, and I was like just studying music at the time, and I watched his videos, and he was talking about doing the chromatic scale. You know what I mean? This is technical, but I can show you real quickly. It's not even that deep. Chromatic scale is just pretty much every single note, right? So you just go through the whole thing without any, like, it's not a scale in the sense of like do re mi fa sol la ti or what the other scales. So chromatic scale is just every single note. So he's like, it's like, who learns the alphabet by just jumping into words, right? Who learns how to talk by you got to learn the alphabet and learn how to read by learning the letters, every single letter. So the first job is to learn every single letter, and then he was playing this thing where he was doing every single note and it sounded in key. You would think like if you hit certain notes, it's gonna sound out of key, but he was just doing it. I was like, whoa. So from that, I transposed that idea to my voice. And I said, every day I'm going to just sing the chromatic scale every single day, going back to that thing I did, A-E-I-O-U. So doing chromatic scale with A-E-I-O-U on one key, next key, A-E-I-O-U, just to hear my voice. And I had a little, I had a tuner, not much different than this, and I would sing it until my voice hit the tuning part, right? So that was the next stage of finding my voice. And they all kind of connect. And then I went on tour recently in 2018, 2019 with an artist named Lauren Daigle, who I mentioned earlier. And I was playing like arenas and stadiums and big halls. I played like Radio City Music Hall, Red Rocks Theater, the Greek Theater, the Anthem in DC. These are like beautiful venues. And I think I don't even know what venue is that, but I was doing sound checks singing a song. And hearing my voice in those spaces made me realize how big my voice can be. And when I say big, I don't mean like anthem music or stadium music. I just mean like how much space my voice can fill up, right? So going back to, you know, the AEIOU thing and figuring out where my voice sits and whatnot, I said, okay, so now I got to write songs that cater to my style of voice, right? Not to say anything against the folk stuff or the Americana stuff, but Americana can be small, very small sometimes, right? And it can also be very small but very full. You know what I mean? Like a lot of guitars, a lot of stuff going on. So it's just this new record is just about okay, this is your voice front and center. That's the all throughout your career, your voice and storytelling has been the most important thing, right? So put that front and center, and everything else put around that. So so then writing songs with, like I said, with that intention, like how can I make my voice feel big here? Well, if you want to make it feel big, don't necessarily just scream here. Make this feel smaller. So sing this part quieter. You know what I mean? As opposed to just going full force the whole song. You know what I mean? Like, so make this quieter and sing and try to find your lower register there and sing a little deeper, sing a little quieter. And then when you pop in the chorus, it's gonna sound like crazy bigger with your voice because you didn't hit them with it all. When I first started, like there's an artist, and I gotta give her a shout out, from the UK, Cal Laval. She used to open mic at I think End of the World or something like that. I can't remember the venue was. And she said to me one time when I was doing a cover of Change Gonna Come by Sam Cooke, and at the end she's like, man, well, she said, man, that cover you do is so beautiful. But do you notice when you sing it, you have these beautiful dynamics where you come lower on the guitar and lower on your voice, and then you have these big chorus moments. It's like all your other songs should feel like that. You know what I mean? And I don't remember how I took it at the time. I obviously remembered it. But it took me almost, let's do time. So that was 2012 to 2020, 2019, 2020. That's like, you know what I mean? 7, 8 years, right? Probably 8 years. So to really understand what she meant by that. Some artists get it. I didn't grow up in the music industry. I didn't grow up learning music. I had to teach myself music. You know what I mean? So some artists get that right away, you know what I mean, if they start early enough. I didn't get that right away, and I had to learn that over time and just understand the power of my voice. So that was the biggest thing for me. Long answer, but that's like, if anyone wants to know how my voice was developed, because I was a horrible singer growing up, had no sense of tuning. I would have got booed off of the Britain's Got Talent stage when I started. I actually applied for Britain's Got Talent, didn't get in. I have pictures of that somewhere when I was in 2012. I can't remember the venue we were at, but it was like the something Stadia, O2 Arena or something. I don't know where we were at. I know it wasn't the O2 Arena, but it's something like that. So yeah, so I was one of those guys who would have got booed off Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent. I applied for Canadians Got Talent, and for a second the guy was impressed, and then I did something weird in my voice, and he didn't like it, right? So I understand what that's like, and I understand what it means to like take your voice and make it stronger. You know what I mean? It's important to find your voice, and I always knew where my voice was and who I was, which is why I wasn't a good singer. But once you find it, you know what I mean? You gotta refine it and tune it and make it sound professional. You know what I mean? So that's what you'll see over the course of my career, where you'll see my voice get better and better. You know what I mean? And then yeah. So that's a long.
Yeah, no, that was great. That's really interesting. Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah, and I'm glad that you found it. It's a great voice.
Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's move into the next section now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a song meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. And what we do here is put the link in the description to the podcast. So if you're watching or listening to this, you don't know the song, you want to pause or see it, you can go and check it out and come back. We're going to have a chat about it. So what song have you chose for us,
I chose "Sing to the Moon" by Laura Mvula. She's a UK artist and one of the artists that were blowing up when I was in the UK. And her album is just beautiful. And that song just hits me and just gets me in a space, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I hadn't heard it until you sent me it, and yeah, it's a powerful song.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, just lyrically, it's beautiful. It's like it definitely is my favorite song on that record. The record, I can't even remember what the record's called. I think the record's also called.
I think it's called "Sing to the Moon," isn't it?
Yeah,
I think.
right. That's what I can remember. she has such a beautiful story, and she's another artist who's like her career path has changed over the years. But that first album, "Sing to the Moon," it's just it was definitive at the time. It's just like to see a black girl just be herself unapologetically, bald head, you know what I mean? Like no apologies, right? And just the videos were so beautiful. Great album. So that song, yeah, "Sing to the Moon and the Stars Will Shine." It's just poetry, man. And that is like one of those things where the meaning can mean different things to different people, but the message is so simple. You know what I mean? The like "Sing to the moon and the stars will shine." That's poetry, but it's not cryptic or convoluted. You know what I mean? It's just honest in a weird way, right?
Yeah, and it's got a really beautiful thing about it's feels like again it's just, it describes a dark time, doesn't it? Something essentially bad happening to the person, and but then it gives you some kind of advice, isn't it? In a way, that's what
Right.
the feeling I got from it was, like it's setting up this um, when things are, like that's the feeling I got from anyway, is that you're in this dark time, but then it's "Sing to the moon and the stars will shine." So it's kind of giving that.
It's like, if you want to go really really deep with it, like I don't know how deep you want to go, but like there's a lot of like slave imagery in that album. You know what I mean? It's the way she dresses, the colors of that time during slavery. And if you think about like this is heavy, but I might as well go there. Like how many people lost people during that time? You know what I mean? And the only thing those people had was the song sometimes. So when she's saying "Sing to the moon and the stars will shine," there's a literal part of that. If you're like going through the Underground Railroad, or if someone's like trying to escape, and you may never see that person again alive, and even if they do survive, you may never see them again. You know what I mean? So to connect to the bereavement of losing somebody, that was a regular occurrence during that time. You know what I mean? I pulled up the lyrics here. Like there's a couple lyrics she says in here. Hey, you there, shattered in a thousand pieces, weeping in the darkest nights. You know what I mean? Hey there, you, trying to stand up on your own 2 feet and stumbling through the sky. Like, she could be talking about Harriet Tubman for all we know. And how many people did she have to leave behind and mourn the loss of, right? So that's a deep, like, look into, I don't know if that's what she meant, you know what I mean? But I think of a time where you had no control over who you lost and who was taken away from you. And to be able to sing during those times and be able to find some kind of solace and hope, it doesn't get much heavier than that. You know what I mean? And I think in our time, today, we're living in totally different circumstances, but it's not, you never say get over it. You know what I mean? That's not a good thing to think of. I always say to people, I've always said this my whole life, cry it all out. You know what I mean? Don't let anybody tell you that you can't cry it all out. Let it all out and go through those feelings, and then once you've got it all out, get up and let's go. You know what I mean? Not get over it, not forget about it. You know what I mean? Remember it, but forgive yourself, forgive the situation, and keep it moving. So a song like that is like, it's not only like about the lowest points you could think of, that I can think of as a black man in Canada, America, but there's a hope. You know what I mean? Sing to the moon and the stars will shine over you, lead you to the other side. And that line, the other side, can mean a transition. You know what I mean? To the afterlife, however you want to look at it, right? Sing to the moon and the star. Yeah. So heaven's gonna turn the time, right? I think that might be Tide. Is it time? Yeah. I'm reading Genius with the wrong lyrics. Uh, um, anyhow, yeah. So it's I don't want to take the meaning away from anybody of that song, because it may not. She's never told me that that's what it means, but that's how I interpret it. You know what I mean? And the loss in that time period was insurmountable. You know what I mean? There's almost very few things like that kind of loss, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a powerful, powerful song. I'm really looking forward to listening to the rest of the album. Like I said, I've only heard that one track so far, but it's going to be on my playlist tomorrow.
It's a great album. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad we got to do this, right?
Yeah, and you just released Unarchived.
Unarchived, yeah, I haven't even talked about it. Yeah, unarchived. So unarchived in a nutshell is like me going back to some of these songs and reimagining them, and kind of just say like it's kind of cathartic in the way of like I got to pair that. So the idea of letting my voice shine,
Mm.
that's the point of this record to say, here are these songs and hear my voice and my story. All the other stuff, let's get that out of the way. We have those out there; those are great. But let's just tone everything down and listen to my voice. And there's some other songs that I had on my in my archives that I haven't released. I don't, I, you know, they didn't make some of my records, but they were just sitting there. And I'm like, why haven't I released these yet? Let's get them out. So that those are out there, and it's I'm glad I'm glad I did it. It's like it's kind of like the end of a chapter for me, and to usher in a new chapter in my career. So yeah, that's out. It came out Friday, and yeah, really happy with that one. Great, getting a great response too.
Brilliant. Yes, people can check that out. And you've got a single, a duet coming out later this week, is it?
Yeah, Friday with Lauren Daigle, we got a duet called "Hold On to Me," which we first sang when I was on tour with her, and it was spontaneous. It was just happened on the cuff. They were doing sound checks. Someone invited me on stage, and I just started singing, and it just sounded great it sounded great with her voice with the band. And they're finally releasing the duet we did. So she has a version which is her on it, and then she has the duet version which is coming out on Friday, which is man, I heard it already. I mean, I sang on it, so I heard it. It's a beautiful song, man. It's very powerful, very powerful.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Good stuff. Anything else you want to mention? Are you still doing? You've doing some live streams, haven't you? Some.
Yeah, so depending on what Thursday it is, we'll be on either Facebook or Instagram. It's kind of random, so I don't really tell people the time, and it's not something I'm like going out there saying everybody got to show. It's just kind of like, hey guys, I'm on, come hang out, sing some songs with you, talk to you. So that's just something I'm doing because we're on lockdown. It's called Unlocked. So it's just something I felt like I needed to share music with people. I needed to connect to the audience, and from doing it, I'm learning that the audience needed to connect with me and connect with the music. So sometimes you can get kind of stuck in your own world when we're in isolation and lockdown and quarantine. But it's important as artists, as creatives, that we keep creating and keep sharing, because you don't know who your music is touching. You don't know whose life it's saving, and it might be saving your own life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's a beautiful message to end on. So yeah, really appreciate your time, and yeah, I'm a big fan. I highly recommend everyone listening to check out AHI's music because yeah, it's been a big joy for me over the last couple of months. I look forward to listening to more of it.
all right, thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's great to speak to you, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.